Alright, what an American thinks about Mexico. I can't believe I never got around to doing this video. Okay, my experiences with Mexico. I've been to Mexico 3 times. I went there for 10 days back in like 1984 or something like that. 1982. Or 1980. At Puerto Vallarta. And they were friendly. And I saw like crabs all over the beaches. And then I went there again. I rode my bike from Austin, Texas down to Mexico City. Mexico, the roads are really are more narrow. There's no, they don't have shoulders on their roads, so it's sketchy for a bike. At one point, I was really freaked out because I was riding down the road and there were these really steep reeds, and there's all these cars passing me really fast, and I didn't have any room to get over because the reeds were going up. They would have hit my handlebar, but there was no shoulder. So I was like, freaked out when I finally got through that because people were passing me really fast, not giving me any room. But as far as the Mexican people, they seem kind of indifferent, like to me as an American. They were just like, they'd seen like plenty of Americans before. But I didn't have any experiences with, you know, Mexicans being rude to me or anything. They were friendly people. Although I got robbed a lot by maids. I was in a hotel room in Mexico City for like 4 days. I was really sick. And when I left, I realized that they had taken a bunch of my stuff. I had lots of like little things, you know, and they snagged a bunch of stuff. Happened in Honduras too. My bike was stolen too. I climbed this mountain right outside of Mexico City and I locked it with a really cheap lock because I like lost my lock. I can't remember how I lost it. Maybe the maids took it. But I bought another lock, but it was a really cheap lock. And the Mexicans, they cut my lock while I was climbing the mountain. I came back, my bike was gone. And they did actually overcharge me as an American because I was riding down the road and my bike rack cracked, so I had to get it soldered. And there was a solder guy right there, and he did this solder thing, which took like 5 minutes, and they charged me $15. So that wasn't so bad. But there's lots of... Mexico City itself is one of the most fascinating cities I've ever been to. I thought it was beautiful because there is they have their main plaza, which is huge. It's the biggest plaza I'd ever seen. Gigantic plaza. But they didn't have any street performers or anything in there. It was kind of deserted. People would just use it to walk across it. There was a McDonald's next to it. But on the southern end of the plaza, there is this building, which I guess was one of the original buildings of the Mexican country. But you could see it was sideways. It had sunk in because Mexico City used to be on a lake. And they built those old buildings, and before the lake had totally drained out. And yeah, I saw it sideways. And then right next to that, there was the big cathedral, and right next to that was the ruins of an old Aztec pyramid, which I looked at. That was pretty cool. That was a museum. And then a few blocks away was another Aztec pyramid that I went and looked at. So they've got the Aztec pyramids scattered around Mexico City. My hotel was like right there next to the plaza, but there is this this road, Avenida something or other. I think it's called maybe Avenida del Sol. But it goes from the plaza all the way over to this big hill, which has this big castle like palace on top of, which I guess is where the president lived. But it's a straight shot and a really wide road from that hill all the way to the plaza, and it was really pretty. And there's a bike path along it. And next to that is this big like park that's gigantic, like a big big forest with really wide roads, but no cars can go in there, and people selling stuff. I guess on Saturdays it's a market, but and then they had little trails that go off, so it was a cool little park within the city. On the southern side of the city, they still have the canals from the ancient lake, but I didn't look at that. I should have. The city has, when I was there back in 2000, oh my God, 12 years ago. It was, had so many Volkswagen vans. I mean, bugs. Green Volkswagen bugs. Painted green and white. At the stop signs, I guess where they hang out to go pick up the cab, they had like 50 of them. I got a picture of it. Just all packed in there like that. And a lot of the little buses, little minibuses people would take were Volkswagen vans, but they were the old model, the round kind. But you could tell that they were built just a few years ago because the grills were plastic. And yeah, they had all those all over the place. That's kind of interesting. Maybe the bugs were the same way. I heard they had a factory, an old, Volkswagen factory that was still there, making the old ones. But let's see, what else? I didn't meet any Mexicans who could speak English. Their English wasn't so good. One really interesting thing about Mexico is that Mexico City itself is really high. It's like 7,000 feet. So the weather there is not like you would expect it to be. It's not like, because it's so far south, it's not really hot. It's really crispy and warm and cool and not jungly. And, but I rode my bike across, and when you ride your bike across over the course of 11 days across the country, you notice things that somebody who drives a car doesn't, because they don't actually get to look at the people. I noticed that Mexico City itself had a lot more Spanish blood, European-blooded people there than the rest of Mexico. The rest of Mexico, Mexicans I would interact with, looked like they had a heavy Indian, Native American blood. They were the dark-skinned, shorter, stouter. But then I went to Mexico City, and all of a sudden, all over the place, there was like Spanish-looking people all over the place. It was like a totally different country. It was really kind of shocking. And also, most of Mexico is jungle. I was riding my bike down, right next to the Gulf of Mexico there on the road, and I look over, and it'd be jungle. Like, you couldn't even walk through it. So tightly, densely packed. But then I rode my bike up to Mexico City one day, and it was like up the mountainside the whole time. And I could see how the jungle and the vines went away, and then next thing I know, it's pine forests, and it's like you're in like Colorado, or like Utah or something. Alpine desert, not the jungle like the rest of Mexico. So yeah, that's a different aspect. And then I went back down to the Yucatan, and it was jungly again. But the Mexicans who I met, who I interacted with, I didn't hear any of them speak English, and it seemed really poor too. Some of them on the side of the road, like their bathroom would be like an outhouse, a separate. A couple of houses were like that. Stores that I got, like their store and their house were the same thing, same building. I went to one town that had cobblestone streets. Oh, and the cars that they drove, they had big American cars from the 70s. And they're like not in Mexico City, but the other town, I think Veracruz. Their taxis were big 70s Dodges and stuff. Fords. Yeah, that's that. They weren't particularly outgoing. I didn't really chat with so many of them. I was just paying attention, minding my own business, riding my bike. On the side of the road, they had these burritos, which were different from American. They're a lot more greasier than American burritos, but they were good. And they had a lot of those like little tamale wraps on the side of the road. Yeah, it's a cool place to visit. So, that's what an American thinks about Mexico.